Welcome back. We're looking at multiplication equations in this video, and we are still on the one-step module. So I'm going to pull up the one-step module and recall that we've done the addition equations. We've done the subtraction equations. And now we're up to the multiplication equations. Before I show you how to solve one of these, I need to make sure you know how to read one of these. So follow this thought process with me just a second. When you were in first grade, you learned to write your times tables down. You maybe didn't learn how to do them, but you started to learn how to read them and write them. And so they taught us in first grade that when we want to multiply, we do this. And that worked just fine. Nothing at all wrong with that. Unless you're doing algebra, where the x looks very much like a variable. It looks like the letter x instead of the times sign. So in middle school, they start to teach you to do this method. Well, at some point they told me this method. I don't remember exactly when that was. But for someone with a learning problem, this looks kind of just like the x. So that method didn't work for me, even though it means the same thing. It means multiply. So then we tried this method, which also means multiply. That's 3 times 5. But you might be thinking, well, that looks like a decimal. If you're not careful and your handwriting gets sloppy, that could very easily be mistaken for a decimal, which we don't want to do. So then my teacher said, okay, let's do it this way. Let's say 3 times 5 is 15. And that was okay. I could see that this was kind of that funny looking times sign in there. That's how I thought of it, that means multiply. Well, then I ran across this one. And that also means 3 times 5. So I want you to know that anytime you see one of these particular problems, they all mean the same thing. In different math books, different professors will use the different formats just depending on their own backgrounds. So we have to know that all of that means exactly the same thing. But what happens when you need to say this? Oops, get back to my pencil. What if you needed to say 3 times an unknown number? Okay. Well, the 3 is not a problem. That's a constant. That's something I recognize no matter where I see it. And an unknown number can be anything that I want it to be. I'm going to use the letter N for number. That's a variable. That varies according to the story that I might be telling. So whatever variable, you could also use an X. You can use an A. You can use anything. But I like N because of number. So those two terms I can put together. But this thing, remember, I don't want to do that because that looks like the letter X. So all of the ways I showed you before will work. You could use any of those green methods up there, it would be fine. But here's the best way. If you want to say 3 times an unknown variable, you push them together just like so. 3 times an unknown number. Remember, these have names. Hopefully you know the n now is a variable. Do you remember what that 3 is called from your list of terms? It starts with a C. It is the coefficient. So in an algebra problem, when you are multiplying a coefficient and a variable, you need to write it like this. 3n is 3 times an unknown amount. Okay, sorry to digress, but this is important. Let's solve some problems. The first one is going to look like 3b, as in boy. 3b equals 15. So maybe I go to the Mexican restaurant and 3 burritos cost $15. So we want to find the price of 1 burrito. And I'm just making up stories. Nowhere does it say anything about burritos. It's lunchtime. Okay, so put your problem down. That's very important to write that first. And then you can tell which is the constant side and which is the variable side. And hopefully you can see that that 3 is on the wrong team. The 3 is not a letter, it's a number, so it needs to go over to the constant side. So remember, this is saying 3 times b. What is the opposite or the inverse of times? Well, it's divide. And we're going to divide by the coefficient, always. So the 3 cancels. You always want to be able to cancel or something is not right. So if you can't cancel something, that's a big red flag that something's not going correctly. So b equals, and in your calculator you're going to say 15 divide 3, and that is 5. So in our story, 1 burrito, $5. Okay, so let's take a look at another one. This takes a little getting used to. This format's a little different. So this time I have 36m equals 324 as the constant. So let's make a problem and put the equation down there. 36m, m is variable. 324 is constant. And so I need to move the 36. Doesn't matter if it's a plus or minus 36 at this point, because we're not adding and subtracting here. We're multiplying and dividing. So we're going to divide the 36, the coefficient, away from both sides. So we're left with m, and this is 324 divide 36, and I have no idea what that's going to be. I'm getting 9. Let me just check that one more time. And so 9 is your solution for this problem. So in this case, m equals 9. Okay. I think I'm going to go to the next page for this one. And I have 168 equals 56A. And so we need to set up the problem, because this will help us figure out where the variable is and where the constants need to be. And we can see that the 56 is the piece that needs to move. So we're going to divide the coefficient away from both sides and cancel. And so I'm left with A and then 168 divide 56 on your calculator. A is going to be 3. Write your solution properly. That's a good habit to get into. Make sure that you clearly mark your solution. Again, I like the little circle or a box around it. But okay, the next one, we have a negative 25 equals negative 5y. Okay. Be careful always with negatives. Those are special cases that you have to take seriously. Slow down and do them carefully. So negative 25 equals negative 5y. So y is variable. This is the constant. So I need to move that negative 5 over to the constant team. And we do that with division. And make sure that you take the negative sign too. All you want to leave over here is the y. Take everything but the y. And so y equals 25 negative divide 5 negative, and you will get a positive 5 as your answer. So make sure that you are able to get that positive 5, that you know how to use your negative key. A negative 5 in the answer will not be acceptable. Okay, one more in this section, in this video. And this one is negative 13.6r equals negative 95.2. Okay, so be very careful with those negative signs. And let's draw the frame. Put the problem on the frame. And identify constant and variable. So let's divide the coefficient. And remember, you take everything but the r. It's very important. You don't want to leave anything behind except the variable, because that's all that we can have on that side. So the r, and then this is going to be 95.2 negative divided by 13.6 negative. 95.2 negative divided by 13.6 negative equals positive 7. So make sure that you're getting exactly what you're supposed to and that you know how to do these on the calculator. That is as much an important thing as knowing the algebra. It's knowing how to do them on the calculator. Okay, I will see you in the next video for the division set.